Welcome to the podcast. We do recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
Good morning, good morning. It is a beautiful day to be in recovery. Man, we've had a great time laughing it up this morning. I got a table full of good fellas here, ready to talk some recovery. You're listening to We Do Recover. I'm your host of this thing, Jared Miller. Let's check in with the other fellas sitting around here. Sean Donovan.
Hey, I'm back.
He's back. You ready? You ready this morning?
Yeah.
All right. Let's try to get more than one in without an interruption, shall we?
Wow, really? Wow. I'll tell you about it, the new and good.
Got him. All right, Dr. Sellers, my
What's
co-host. What's going on? You ready for this thing this morning?
Yeah, I am.
You're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Well, I'm red-eyed and bushy-tailed, but it's fine.
You're here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm excited. I'm happy
Nice.
to be here.
Nice. And last but definitely not least, I got a guy that literally has more clean time than I have years on this earth alive, Tim Hayes. Tim, you ready to rock and roll this morning?
I think I am. Glad to be here. Glad to be anywhere. You know that.
Nice. Episode 47, part 1 is brought to you by our sponsor, Steps Recovery Center. If you have a loved one who needs help, I know. Do you see that? I had a.
He was about to advertise for a local inn.
If your loved one needs help, reach out to Steps Recovery Center. You can call them at 801-800-8142. All right, well, let's start off with some new and goods. This thing's been rocking and rolling. Let's start with you, Dr. Sellers. What's new and good? Use some positive psychology to identify positive things in your life.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
a lot of instruction. I'm all worried about what I'm going to say now. What if I don't fit the bill? All right, I got a new and good today. I don't always have a new and good, but I've got a new and good today. Tomorrow, now I get this isn't today, but tomorrow I will have been married for 39 years.
Congratulations.
Yes, my wife is with me on this trip, which doesn't happen all the time. My wife came down. This weekend is a little bit of our wedding anniversary celebration, and so that's pretty. It's not new because it's 39 years old, but it is awfully good.
That's
So,
beautiful.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Yeah, my wife on the drive over here, by the way, she mentioned to me. She said, "You might have something to say now in the new and good," and I'm like, so I was going to pull her leg, right? Which I did. I said, "What?" And she says, "You're not going to be married. You're not going to make it to 39 years with that attitude."
Nice.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
We love her.
Absolutely.
Congratulations to the both of you. Hope you guys
Thanks.
have a great time celebrating down here in Southern Utah with us.
Yeah.
Let's check in with our guest, the guy that came to talk to us today. Tim, what's new and good? What's going on in your world, buddy?
I want to tell him congratulations on 39 years. I don't think I could be with anybody that would tolerate me for that long.
Well, that's
So,
the miracle right there. Somebody tolerated me for 39 years.
Yeah, I've had 2 practice marriages to get this one right. So
A couple warm-ups?
I'm a second half team. You know, I'm a
There
second
you go.
half player.
Come back. Score
Yeah.
a touchdown in the end.
What I've been really grateful for this week, some friends of mine visited from out of town, and 11 years ago today, I was on about my 3rd or 4th day of radiation and chemo from stage 4 throat cancer, and just they didn't plan it that way, but the guy that helped me the most, he went through it before I did. So both of them made a long trip to visit with me and share with me exactly what was going to happen, almost down to the day. And I think it would have been a whole lot more difficult without those two. But anyways, they showed up in town, and I got to spend some time with them. 11 years to the day that I started that. So I'm grateful, man. When I say glad to be here, glad to be anywhere, I mean it most days. So
I
that's
love
mine.
that. You're truly never alone, right?
Right.
That's amazing.
I didn't have to go through that by myself.
Thank you. That is a man. Talk about knocking it out of the park. That's an amazing new and good.
Yep.
All right, Sean Donovan, top that guy.
I can't.
Oh,
I can't, but I found
Wait, it's not a competition. Why are you making
Sure it
top
is.
it? Tell us
Of
what's
course
new
it
and good in your life, Sean.
I have found my geography of Zen.
geography of Zen.
Yes.
Explain.
Stage 1 is between, I forget the highway name, but it's between Crystal Springs and Tonopah. It's where the alien highway is.
Okay.
Okay. Stage 2 is between Austin, Nevada and Ely, Nevada on Highway 50. Straight, long stretches of road, motorcycle, very few cars, 0 people, just me and there. It's awesome.
That does sound pretty sweet.
All right,
Like
I
I'm
like it.
jealous in this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just
He found
it-
his spot.
It's my Zen spot.
Yeah.
And then I got back to St. George and it was hot.
What? It's hot in St. George?
Yes, it has been. Today it's a little overcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only going to be 100 today. I was kind of
Only.
excited to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be good. All right. Well, my new and good is I finished
Oh,
up.
whoa. Jared.
Yeah, you forget me. It's okay.
I was actually
I'm going to be a victim over here.
I'm involved in trying to figure out something that I'm going to say on my phone. Well, I'm looking up something. But I got so involved that I forgot to ask you. So
My new and goods are thank you guys for posting. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Amber. Glad you guys are here with us. Appreciate the comments. I appreciate the gratitude. If you're listening to this, you can definitely shoot us a comment question. Today we're talking about unmanageability and powerlessness. My new and good is I finished school. My ethics paper. Okay.
Congratulations.
This thing was a beautiful, beautiful deal when I finished it. But it was a pain up until then. So my new and good is I'm done with school, ready to rock and roll, kind of settling in. Things are going great at work. Yeah, man. Married. Like I feel like I'm maturing in my life, Dr. Sellers.
oh my gosh. He feels like it. He's not really aware what that means, but can I just rain on your parade?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's overcast today.
What does done with school mean?
Oh yeah. So I finished up my good point. My ASUDC certification. So
So you only have 3 more years now?
for the masters.
Yeah, you're going to do that.
And then the
I
PhD
guarantee
will be
you're
a
gonna
few
do
more
that,
years
right.
after that.
So you're not done with
Yeah,
school.
You're not even close to done with school.
I'm taking a break from school.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks guys for helping me reframe
Well,
that.
great.
All right, let's get into
Listen,
Tim, man.
that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. I don't regret them. So I spent a long time in school. I don't regret a minute of it. Like I even in my career and most of us have heard this, but I lost my license to practice medicine once upon a time. I still didn't regret the schooling. Like
Yeah.
even when I couldn't use it, I thought, well, all right, but I'm still glad. And it turns out that it paid off in the end for me. But
Yeah.
so all right. Well, Tim.
Yeah.
We got Tim.
Yes,
Can you
we
tell
do.
us- who's Tim? I don't know Tim. I met him about 10 minutes ago,
That's how we like it.
and no, it's great because we can just because I do like it that way actually because now I get to learn about Tim on the podcast, which is so. Tell us about Tim right now, just a little bit about kind of what your life is like, family, that sort of stuff, like currently.
Yeah. I always tell people if you spend 10 minutes with me, you're going to walk away going, God, he's a pretty good guy. But if you spent 2 years with me, you're going to have your opinions. I just turned 63. I've been through a lot of physical stuff. I moved down here 3 years ago last June. 4 years ago at a convention, I met a woman. I'd quit dating for quite a while. Just to try to figure some things out. And then I met her, and we talked every night on the phone since. I moved down here a year ago. We bought a house. We got married. October will be 2 years. And that's why I'm in St. George. After everything that I've been through, I love to golf. I still like to, I love to golf. I play softball in a recovery league. Me and this other guy that I used to play racquetball with, one of our favorite sayings was, if nobody told you how old you were, then how old would you be? And that's kind of how I live my life. Some people say, Tim, you shouldn't be doing that at 63. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do whatever my body tells me I can do. So I hiked Angel's Landing all the way to the top a couple of weeks ago with some friends. That was a big accomplishment for me. Been in recovery for, 36 years, almost 37 years. Well, most of it in recovery. I mean, I've been clean that long, but I'll finish with this and that. I would when people would ask, does anybody have any proud time? And I tell them, I've been clean 30 years and I've been proud of about 24 of them. So, but if anybody's out there, you just don't got to do everything perfectly in order to have a good life and stay clean.
Yeah.
Can we give a shout out to your amazing wife?
You want
be
me
comfortable
to?
with that?
Well, wait. She spent. Because he said earlier. He said if you spend 2 years with me, you might have some opinions.
Right.
His wife spent 2 years with him. What would her opinion be? Okay, I like that.
I have my own opinion. I think she would say he's an awful good husband, and
I'll bet you would.
and he's very supportive. But my wife loves recovery just like I do. So we're a pretty good couple.
Yeah, I like it. I like that a
Yeah,
lot.
she's wonderful. She really is.
That's
I
awesome.
asked him what his wife would think of him, and then we had the dreaded dead air, which, by the way, is a license plate I read once. Sean Denovan has dead air on his license plate, and he doesn't love it. But it was 2 seconds, so we're good. All right, so let's talk about. Do you have any kids?
Yeah, I have 2 daughters, and I don't even tell people that I don't like the word like stepkids. They've been mine since they've been 3 and 5, and they're 40 and 42 now.
Wow.
And the rough thing that I went through, I lost my son to the disease that I had to surrender to 2 years ago, last March.
Wow.
So he would have been 35 this October.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's hard.
that's not an easy one to get through.
That's hard. That's something I've learned through the years is, I would have hoped along the way that that my kids would learn from my mistakes. Well, my kids are going to learn from their mistakes. They're not going to learn from mine. And it just doesn't work that way. But you'd think seeing all the devastation in your life that your kids would figure that out. And they just don't. People have to make their own mistakes.
Everybody walks their own path.
Just, right. That's just the way it is.
Well, I got clean before I had kids. My kids never saw me use. I might not have been the best husband, but I was a pretty good dad, did all the coaching and all the stuff that I wasn't given when I was a kid. So a lot of the work I did in early recovery was I want to be that type of dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, give back some service work.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted my kids to grow up to do it for their kids. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got a friend on here, Jesse. Jesse, what's up? What's up to you, buddy?
Hey,
Thanks
Jesse.
for being on here.
No,
Thanks for commenting.
I don't like Jesse.
You don't even know Jesse.
That's why I don't like him. Did you see who Jesse gave a shout out to?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, Jared. What's up, Tim? Oh,
well, he knows who the cool people are.
hi Jesse.
So-
right.
Hi, Jesse. All right.
Let's find out if Tim knows anything about powerlessness.
He doesn't.
Oh, I think he does.
Oh,
He
he
has
does?
more clean time than I do years alive. I think he might
right.
know a thing or two.
He has more clean time than you have time.
All right.
Yeah, it doesn't know. I mean, that doesn't mean like I know a whole bunch.
It means you know something.
And I think a lot about the first step, and powerlessness to me was just using against my will. Telling myself that, look, it ain't going to get any better tonight. You're going to end up crawling around your hands and knees and peeking out windows and seeing stuff that isn't there, and then doing it anyways.
Oh, the tree people.
That's exactly what I tell people. You seeing tree people and duct taping my door shut, and, because it's like when I first started, and I'm just going to say I started using when I was, I don't know, maybe 14. But by the time I was 26, because I quit when I was 26, God had a better plan for me. I used to be one of those guys that I would get invited to parties, and because I was a fun guy, I like to have fun and laugh, and I wasn't out looking to fight and try to beat people up, and if you're one of those people, welcome anyways. There's recovery for all of us, but
That's me.
Yeah.
Right.
But in the end, there was nobody was inviting me no place. I got too weird, and I would keep telling myself, my denial was that no, it'll be like it used to be. Don't worry about it. And then when my tranquilizers were running low, and the psychiatrists that I were lying to were catching on, and the doctors that I lied to were catching on, I was just kind of forced to. It was either go permanently insane or shoot myself. So, but powerlessness is just using against my will, telling myself I don't want to and having to do it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find it interesting. We talk about the powerlessness we have over our disease, right? You want to stop using, but you can't stop using. And oftentimes people feel like that is kind of like a cop-out, or that's, you know what I mean? So explain to me, and I know in some literature, some fellowship literature, it basically states you're not responsible for your disease, but you are responsible for your recovery. How does that look with powerlessness? In other words, where does the powerlessness end and the recovery start?
Well, for me, it was like after I just quit lying to myself, after I gave up all reservations, that as long as I could stay clean for a while, then I could start using again. Because I mean, I tried to. Well, as long as I gave up, can we be specific on here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As long as I gave up cocaine, because that was the one that I always tell people I was doing it back in the day when it was really good. It hadn't been stepped on a lot, and late 70s, early 80s. So that is what was really driving my insanity. And I made up excuses for the tranquilizers that I needed, and the alcohol that I had drank, and the hallucinogenics that I had done. And as long as I could quit alcohol, or as long as I could quit cocaine at that point, then I was good. So I stopped for 30 days. And
Just the cocaine, but you were using the other stuff?
Well, absolutely. I wasn't going to give everything up. I was still in denial. So
because you weren't powerless over those other things.
No, it's only the cocaine that I was.
Right.
That's so. Anyways, I had to stop everything before I could even start to recover, and it was only until I got into recovery that I realized that I was powerless.
Right.
So. I don't know, and everybody's got their take on what it means to them.
Yeah, and we've all heard some takes, right? One of the things I hear a lot about powerlessness is people think, not the cop-out thing I hear a lot, but the other thing is that means I'm hopeless, like there's no way I can get past this. That's not what that means to me at all. That means to me that, A, you're right, I have a disease and I don't have any control over that part of it. And if I use, I've given up all control there. But it does not mean you're powerless to not use. You have some ability to not use. Otherwise, nobody at this table would be sitting here.
Right. And my take on powerlessness is kind of this. It's being able to surrender, like Tim talked about, he had to surrender, right? He had to acknowledge that he was where he was, that he had a disease, and be able to respect it enough not to go back to it. So powerlessness means to me is once you have some clean time underneath your belt, the acknowledgement that you can't use socially. Like I can't go to a bar and just be a social drinker. I can't go and get a prescription filled and socially take pain medication. Like I'm powerless over that. As soon as I use that first time, my disease is reawakened.
Well, the other thing about powerlessness is with Tim's story is social using and duct taping your door shut are different things, right? That's a slightly different level. Like the people with real addiction, most of them aren't socially using anymore. I mean, they might go to the bar to drink, but they've already had some stuff before they got to the bar, right?
Right.
And then they're going home to have some more stuff, and that's kind of a powerlessness thing for sure.
Well, people with an addiction problem understand, and it's why I hang out where I still hang out. I did so much of drug A one night and then a whole bunch of drug B that my experience, the best I could remember was my heart was beating at 100 miles an hour, and then I just stopped and I couldn't breathe. It's like my eyes were awake and I knew what was going on, but I couldn't breathe. And you kind of do that real quick. I don't remember if I was out loud, but I remember thinking to God that, man, I need to get over this. And, I promise. And then somehow coming out of that, because I thought I was going to die. I thought I'd done what I'd heard about. And most people would not even get to that point. But an addict will do it again the next night knowing what could possibly happen. Anybody with an addiction problem, because that's where I was at towards the very end of my using. That's the powerlessness of this disease.
No question.
Absolutely.
For me, my analogy is, and I may have said this on here already, but for me, I've always thought, I could use morphine tonight and get away with it. I guarantee it. I could use it tonight and get away with it.
What do you mean by as far as get away with it?
Like, maybe nobody would find out.
Okay, so
Like-
you wouldn't get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if I use tonight and get away with it, like, I don't stop when I get away with it.
Right.
Right? I stop when the cops show up at my door and want to talk to me, or, I stop when the bad stuff starts happening. I don't stop when I get away with it.
Right.
So, yeah, I could use tonight and get away with it. But I'm going to use tomorrow if I do that. Almost guaranteed.
And what you and Tim are saying, I think, is perfect, right? It's so, quick little story here, and it reminds me of powerlessness. When I was a kid, I was in 4th grade, and for Christmas, my dad bought me a little YZ80, little dirt bike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little Yamaha.
Yep, loved it. And we had some dirt fields, and I was so excited. I wanted to get out there, and I wanted to fire that thing up, right? I had my helmet on. I'm all pumped up, this little kid, and he made me sit down, take off my helmet, and a little father-son moment. He said,
shoot.
Jared, I want to tell you something first. The day that you do not respect the power that bike has will be the day that you hurt yourself and possibly somebody else.
Which is today for you. Because you're sitting on that thing and you want to climb to the top of the mountain and then jump off.
Probably.
That first day, right?
Probably. But it's the principle's the same. If you do not, once you get some clean time underneath your belt, if you can't look back and respect the power that your disease has, and you tell yourself, oh, I can use, like you're saying, Dr. Sellers, I could use morphine tonight and get away with it. Okay, maybe you wouldn't get caught, but you're powerless to stop.
Right.
Once you start that train,
Sure.
you're not going to be able to that very easily stop that locomotive.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Am I making
sure.
sense?
Oh, yeah.
So it's
sure.
having a form of respect for the disease that you have.
Yeah. Tim, how'd you get started? Like, what was, you said you started at age 14. What was that? Like, how was that? What drugs at the time? And that's
Actually, I was 9 and I loved the smell of gasoline. So at 9, and I'm looking at like 9-year-old kids today, or 10, 11-year-old kids huffing. And I love the smell of gas. And then when I found out what it did to me,
Right.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
I just one of them kids. I didn't like the way I was raised. I was a weird, I had all those labels that they had no medicine for back then.
Right.
I was that kid sitting out in the hallway, at school, because I couldn't sit still. I was disruptive, but for some reason that stuff made me feel good. And then I knew by the time I was in like 6th or 7th grade that if it said use with adequate ventilation or maybe harmful if inhaled or swallow, I could put in a baggie and do.
I better inhale or swallow.
At an early age. So that was my start. And then, I was a freshman in high school, that's when I got drunk the first. And my first time, I chugged a bottle of homemade wine because it tasted good, 3/4 of a bottle, all at one shot. That was my first time of really getting drunk, and I was just off and running from there. I didn't, I'm not one of those guys that ever just said, hey, 2 beers and I'll go home. 2 hits off a pipe and I'm going home. That was never me.
What was the experience of that 3/4 of a bottle of wine? Did you like the way you felt after that? Or did you get sick?
I was in Everett, Washington. We were at a youth fast pitch tournament.
Okay.
And we gotten beaten out that day, and one of my friends' older sister had it. She gave it to him, and all I remember is people were laughing at me the next day. I had made a complete fool of myself, trying to run around half naked out of the Motel 6 that we were staying in. And it seems like that's what alcohol did to me a lot.
Let's analyze that for just a second, right? What kid likes being laughed at? Like, that's not what we're going for.
No, but the
Right.
attention that he
Class,
received was
class
a reward,
clown and
right?
attention is something
Yep.
for sure, but
Yeah.
being laughed at isn't something that kids like, and yet you repeated the activity.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like I said, once I was starting, I was going to go.
I didn't realize what our timer looked like.
Hey, it's been great so far. Be sure to join us for episode 47, part 2. After our quick little message from our sponsor, please feel free to leave comments. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you in a minute.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller, sponsored by Steps Recovery Center and the Hilton Garden Inn.
I'm Desmond Lomax, one of the clinical executives here at Steps Recovery, and once you become with the Steps family, you're just a part of the Steps family. A lot of us have overcome substances, overcome addiction, and now we're able to help other people. Second of all, we're also going to help you in a way where you can afford to be helped. Third of all, we're going to give you the same quality that many organizations are charging 2 to 3 times, and it's more about you than it is about our organization.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We took a quick break, and now we're going to head to segment 2. But first, before we do, our second segment is sponsored by the Hilton Garden Inn. Sorry, did I start talking too soon?
Oh, you're
I
great.
just like talking. It's always bright and sunny at the Hilton Garden Inn. Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah, stayed there last night. It's a beautiful place. Again, always good and accommodating. The amenities are great at the Hilton Garden Inn. The pool is amazing. That's a great pool, actually. And they're always good to us. So if you or a loved one are down in St. George, give them a Google search. Just type in Hilton Garden Inn and give them a call, and they'll take excellent care of you. So Hilton Garden Inn, they're a great sponsor for us.
And if you're not traveling through southern Utah, what's wrong with you? It's beautiful
that's
here.
a good point.
Right? I mean, it's gorgeous here, right, Tim?
Yeah.
That's why we got smart and moved down here, sellers.
117 degrees.
When you get smart, you'll move down here too.
They're having a cold front today. It's only going to be 100. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, we left off. We were talking a little bit about powerlessness, and the concept that goes along with powerlessness, of course, is the concept of unmanageability. And so we want to kind of move into that a little bit for a second. What does unmanageability mean to people? So we have our guest Tim, and Tim, what does unmanageability mean to you?
Your life was never unmanageable, was it, Tim?
He was duct taping his door shut.
Well, I mean, I'm one of those. I've been a really, really, really good example with somebody who's been in recovery with a lot of time, and I've been a really, really poor example of what somebody with a lot of time can look like. I've made my mistakes. And most of the time it has to do with me just trying to do my own will, not trying to follow God's will. I'd lose a sponsor and I wouldn't want one because I want to do it my way. And before you know it, I mean, I make more amends and my life just becomes, you can call it unmanageable. And unmanageable to some people was, like living on the streets and eating out of dumpsters and living under the bridge and being in and out of prison, and I didn't have one of those. I just don't have one of those stories. Unmanageable to me was it just went around with the whole powerlessness about just using against my will, and my life getting to the point where I was either going to go permanently insane or I just wanted to kill myself. So that's where the unmanageability part. When I was using probably.
Because we talked a little bit before we started this, as we were kind of just, hanging out waiting for Dr. Sellers and starting the episode. And you shared unmanageability to you, like you said, and that's okay. That's not your story, right? Everybody's path is different. You said you kind of struggled at first a little bit in denial about unmanageability, and why was that?
Well, I had, thanks to a good union, I'd managed to keep a job. I didn't have any children at the time that, I wasn't paying attention to and wasn't coaching and wasn't embarrassment to them. I had not been married yet, so just destroying relationship after relationship after relationship was okay.
That wasn't unmanageable at all?
That's
No.
Those
Well,
relationships were manageable for him.
well, it was always their fault.
Well, sure it was.
So
Okay, yeah.
Sure.
and
Couldn't be your fault.
no, of course not. I'm
no
me.
blame.
So
Who wouldn't want to be married to this?
yeah, and then there's two. I do have two that said that's enough, Tim. I mean, it's like unmanageability it just pops up in all kinds of areas in people's life. But yeah, I didn't. Like I said, I was still alive. I wasn't in some loony bin, and I was still working. And I like to say I was still paying my bills, but making good money, living by myself. My car barely ran, and I was 4.5 months behind in rent, and there just should have been there's no reason for that other than
You're spending on other stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, what's more important?
Right. Rent or getting high tonight.
There you go.
And to me, that is unmanageability.
Right.
That right there, like the inability to be able to maintain a lifestyle that you should be able to maintain. In other words, if you were able to pay your bills and be on top of managing the things that you have in your life, relationships, finance, things like that, and then you're no longer able to do those things,
Not doing it, right.
that's unmanageability.
Right.
Yeah. And it could be little stuff too. Like, I remember sometimes I was a wreck, right? I would go to work and I would forget something at home, or I would be at home working on stuff at work to try to catch up because I had taken a long lunch break because I'm powerless to go pick up opiates. Right. I mean, it was just, the whole thing was just a disaster, and that's unmanageability to me.
Right. In my life, it looked a little bit like, so I think of unmanageability as not doing the things that you say you're going to do, even if you're saying it just to yourself. So for me, like, these are attempts at control, which prove my unmanageability. Is, I was running an obstetrician's office. I was an obstetrician. I was running that office, and so I would say to myself, I don't want my patients knowing I'm high, right?
Sure.
So I would take some Lortab, but I wouldn't take it till 4 p.m. because, back in those days, I was just taking them, like just swallowing them.
Right.
I wasn't crushing them up or snorting them or anything. And I didn't want my patients to know I was high, so I would not take Lortab until 4 p.m. Well, 4 p.m. became noon, and I'd wake up and I'd take a handful. That to me was my unmanageability, is I couldn't keep my own word to myself. I'm not going to take them before 4 p.m.
Right.
Or, the limits, the attempts at control of, I'm only taking 10 Lortabs today. And, I'd look up and I'm 40 in, and, it's like, that was the unmanageability to me. I couldn't control it. And I tried, and I wanted to, and I said to myself, I want to.
And it's a direct effect, or it holds hands with powerlessness.
Right.
The powerlessness piece is what creates the unmanageability, is from what I understand it. Right, Tim?
Yeah, because you're almost talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Was I powerless? It's like I had to use, and every time I used, I became unmanageable.
Right.
Yeah. Perfect example of that. I remember being invited to go on family trips, right? And I would get my prescription, and I would have X amount I could take per day, right? And here's the powerless piece. I would always run out early.
Sure.
And so therefore I became unmanageable because I had to make up some kind of lie to leave the vacation and drive home early to get more, right? Whole disaster.
I was just thinking about, like, not being able to follow through with commitments and the family, like Christmas and Thanksgiving and some of that stuff. And if I did make it, I was drinking pretty heavily and always had to leave early. And I don't really think they minded, because most of the time, I overdid, and I thought everybody should have been doing it the way I was. And when you're not getting invited places no more, your life becomes unmanageable. So, but denial is just one of those things that that I really had to work on a lot in order for those other two things to get better.
It's not just a river in Egypt.
It can be whatever you want it to be. It's your show.
What he just said reminded me of a Chris Foxworthy thing. You know, you might be a redneck if.
Yeah.
Your life might be unmanageable if.
That's Jeff Foxworthy, by the way, to you.
Did I?
You said Chris. But
Oh,
that's all right.
Jeff Foxworthy. Oh, I must have Chris in mind because I saw you
Yeah.
posted a little
Chris.
thank you, Chris. Little shout out thanking Tim for coming on and sharing his story.
I saw that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice. Jeff Foxworthy, you might be a redneck if.
Yeah. And so now we have Tim.
You might be
The
a,
Tim
you might
Hayes
be an
quote
addict
is you might be unmanageable if,
Yeah.
right? I like
Yeah. If you stop getting invited to family reunions.
it. Right.
Yeah, sure. All right, so Jared, anything else you got on unmanageability?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think we've covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions about it, feel free to,
Yeah.
to shoot us a comment and
Or
ask a
examples
question.
of how things became unmanageable in their own lives.
Tim did say something at the first of this that really just intrigued me.
Okay.
He said he's had, how did you phrase it? I have 36 years clean,
Yeah. I would tell people
but I'm only proud of.
Yeah.
Let's get that. What does that mean?
That means that there was years
Wait, but you only said part of the thing, so our audience didn't.
Okay, let's
They
have
may
him say
need
it
to get
again.
recalled. What
it
was
is
it you
that
said?
there's some areas that you will go to and they do, hey, we'll go ahead and do proud time in the meetings that I'm in, and people, I've been clean 6 months, 4 years, and I tell people I've been clean. It's like now I would say I've been clean 36 years and some change, and I'm proud of about 28 of them.
Yeah, okay.
Because I've had some, I call them down years. I almost got loaded at 14 and a half years because I had just stopped doing everything that worked. I didn't want to be around. I tell them I didn't want to be around you people.
Right.
And I forgot that I was you people.
Right.
Still today, I am you people.
Right.
But I'd forgotten that. And I didn't want to be around it. I made up excuses. And what had happened was my disease just said, Tim, you don't need them.
Yeah, you're not those
I
people.
got you.
Yeah.
And I was, because I was coaching my son's baseball team, the all-star team. I was the productive, responsible member of society, not even knowing that, social acceptability does not equal recovery.
Yeah.
And I went in and I bought some alcohol for the coaches because that's what normal people do. And I almost got drunk that night.
Wow.
That's at 14 and a half years. I've had some down years. I've had years without sponsors that I did whatever I wanted to and caused wreckage. And, I went through an ugly divorce, and it's kind of one of those, I had to do it the only way that I knew how, but at 8-9 years clean, I wasn't very healthy still. I mean, I wanted to kill myself at 5 years. So I wasn't real healthy then.
Sure.
So that's, to me, I'm hearing the difference between being abstinent or clean
and recovery
versus being in active recovery.
Yeah.
So sobriety versus recovery.
Yeah. We call it stark raving clean.
Yeah. Like you can sit around your house and sit on your hands the whole time and do nothing and be clean, but
Stark raving
man, if
clean.
that's
I like
that's
it.
recovery, I don't want that at all.
Yeah.
So tell us what your life's like today.
Mine?
Yeah, what
what's
do you
life look like?
Yeah, what are you doing with your life these days? What's
I was telling him before that sometimes we bought a nice house, and we're in Bloomington Hills, and we got a pool, and I float out there some days after like working out or playing golf, because I'm retired and life's rough for me.
that is hard.
So
That
I have
golf
to,
is tough.
I have to, I have to decompress after, because I could forget about the 16 good holes that I had, and I'll
Sure. You
focus
hit
on those.
one crappy shot.
Oh my God.
And suddenly you're the worst golfer on the planet, by
Yep.
the way.
And they'll never invite me back again because that's still the way I think.
So real quick, I know you're on a roll here, but does it mean I'm not a good golfer if I have the one good shot in the other 17 holes were
If
terrible?
all you remember is the one good shot, you're a better golfer than we are.
But I don't lie to my friends, and no, you're not a good golfer. So
Thank you, Tim. I can always count on you to be honest.
hey, I you know me, man. I got to tell people I got raised in a different time in recovery.
Wait a sec. You're not starting to talk about participation trophies, are you?
No, but I had sponsors that didn't lie to me.
Yeah, sure.
And they hurt my feelings,
Sure.
but they were not afraid to lie to me. One of them said, "Tim, I don't give up about your feelings, but I care if you live or die."
Yeah.
This last guy that I had, I love to tell this. I'm 20, probably 27, 28 years clean maybe. My sponsor of 19 years had died, and I got this guy because I had messed my life up again. And I said, "John," I said, it's okay. I've been around long enough, and you know me. I'm low maintenance. And he said, "Tim, you don't have a low maintenance disease. It will kill you with 30 years, just like it will kill somebody with 30 days."
Yep.
Very important things for me to remember. But my life is good after not being able to walk 2 years ago because of some severe back problems, to the cancers that I had, to all these operations that I had, not knowing if I was going to have a leg or even be living. My life is good, man. I wake up, and when I'm floating out in my pool, I just think, how did I even get here?
Yeah.
You know, from a guy that was crawling around his hands and knees and peeking out windows and nobody wanted to have nothing to do with him, to where I'm at today. A lot of hard work, long-term recovery, and you know it.
Yeah.
It's not for sissies.
Yeah.
I think that's the big challenge that people face, right? It is an uphill battle. It is. It took me years to try to get back any kind of where I felt like I was living again, not just surviving, but actually living.
Right.
Like that I felt alive and I felt good. But that's the beautiful thing about it is just consistency, right? The more you do it, typically, the more you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It's hard to not, Jared won't get this because he's not a golfer, and it's okay because you've got your own stuff that's going to qualify as this. But it's hard to be out on a golf course and not just be grateful for everything you have. Like, if you can't be grateful on a golf course, then you got some issues.
Well, especially down here. It's beautiful down here. These it's absolutely stunning. I have yet, I've been doing it for almost 4 years now. I have yet to be out and look around and just think, man, this is
just terrible.
This
is the worst thing.
Yeah, I don't care if it's 110. I'm still having fun.
I played not the last time I came down, but 2 times ago we played, and it was 109 when we teed off and 117 when we finished. And I'll show you because I took.
You're a better golfer than me.
Well, I did. I actually, it's the first time in my life I didn't finish. On the 16th hole, I walked off because it's like, this is not fun anymore. I was so, and then the person I was playing golf with took a picture of the parking lot and sent it to me. One car. One car.
Was that your car?
Yeah, oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah, one car. That's it.
So obviously, though, we don't get there overnight. And Tim, I'm sure that the shift didn't happen for you overnight. And so we're talking about life and recovery today. How did you get here? So you look around in your pool and you're like, how did I get here? I mean, walk us through that. What did that look like for you? How have you gotten here?
And I didn't use even when I wanted to. And I shared this the other night at a meeting at my home group, and we've lost a couple that I knew from down here that hurt a lot of people whenever we lost them. I don't knick-knack. I don't, recreational weed has never been okay with me. A couple beers on the weekend has never been okay with me. And I got one white key tag. I was terrified when I got here. That the gift of desperation, it's still with me today.
Yeah.
36, almost 37 years later, I still have that gift of desperation. I love my life today, and I know that it doesn't. I've had a lot of operations, and I've been forced to. I say forced because the doctors strongly recommend that I take some medication, and I've had to be. When I use in any form, our literature says we substitute one for another. We release our addiction all over again, and my mind and body doesn't know the difference between the doctor giving me morphine or liquid OxyContin or if I get it on the street. It's the same stuff that goes into me. It does the same thing. I've had to be really, really careful. That might be one of the tricky areas, you know, that, and I've learned to lean in. When my son died, you know, of course, my wife was the first one I called. My sponsor was the next guy that I called, and I just had to get to be okay with learning to cry when I needed to, because I grew up in a logging town in Castle Rock, Washington, a long time ago, and guys didn't cry over stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't cry.
It's just a whole different era. I've had to learn things like that. I had cancer. I had to learn to let people take care of me, because I'm the guy that I like to take care of people. That's what we do. That's what I do. So I had to learn to let people buy me food. I had to learn to let people come and clean my house. I just had to learn a lot of stuff. And I'm really grateful for one of those first sponsors that I had me work on open-mindedness and willingness.
That's great.
What I hear is humility, right? You gotta get to a place where you're humble enough to be able to accept help and, God forbid, ask for help.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I heard something that I bristle at a little bit. Not something you said that I bristle at, but we're now in, and from everything I've learned so far, you're not really involved in the treatment industry. I am.
He's part of the social piece.
Well, no, the treatment industry now seems to be looking for all kinds of substitutions. There's now centers you can go to and have cannabis-assisted recovery.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like all kinds of places, a bunch of them. And then, you know, like I just read a study the other day that's going to lead to, that I guarantee is going to lead to, we're heading towards every opiate addict needs to be on Suboxone for the rest of their life. That's the direction we're heading now. And man, I hate that. I just hate it. You don't have to do the signal. We're on a podcast. No, we're not sponsored by Big Pharma, so
no holds barred. Tell us your feelings
tick
on
anybody
that.
off you want.
You do not want to hear my feelings on.
We do
on
actually.
That. I just, because it's a personal opinion. I think a lot of it, it's just a personal opinion. You know, they started getting hard with the doctors when they were giving out too many opiates, so they had to cut back. I think they had to find something else to replace it, and here all of a sudden, treatment centers, Suboxone used to be a 30-day detox, you know, buprenorphine, whatever the other one is, Subutex. They used to be a 30-day, and then it went to 6 months, and now it's 2 years, and now you're hearing for the rest of their life. And I'm not saying, you know, maybe for some people, but I'm in one of those programs where complete abstinence is the only thing that worked for me.
I hate that, because I agree with you. There actually, I think, are people out there that probably need Suboxone, maybe long-term, maybe the rest of their lives, but they're few and far between. Because, and the reason it's being driven, it can be money, but the other thing that drives it is there are studies that show that Suboxone patients don't die quite as often as patients who aren't on Suboxone, but they don't live either.
Right.
Like, that's, to me, every time I go out of town, I got to count my Suboxone films to make sure I got enough. I got to go see the doctor once a month. I got to pay him. I got to buy the Suboxone. I got to, oh my gosh, that's just slavery to me almost.
Yeah.
It's
And well,
crazy.
in some cases, it becomes a substitution.
Yeah.
Right.
It
And
for
is it
sure
a safer
can be.
substitution? Absolutely. If we're talking harm reduction, is it a
Sure.
safer substitution? Sure. But it's still, to some degree, a substitution.
And that's kind of, I'm not gigantic on the harm reduction side of things, although I understand it. But I think harm reduction doesn't necessarily always apply across the board either. Some people don't need harm reduction. They just need to stop using drugs.
True.
Some need it. There's no question that harm reduction saves lives. But it also, if you don't need harm reduction and you're doing harm reduction, it takes a little bit of life away from you, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
I think what people struggle with is the acceptance piece. That it's like Tim said, you know, he's coaching baseball, he's with his buddies, having a good time. Normal people can drink. And for some of us, we get this idea that we want to return to the land of the normies. We don't live in the land of the normies sitting on this podcast.
Right.
And I accepted a long time ago. I surrendered to the idea that I'm never going to return to the land of the normies. I can't do that. Right. My life depends on staying in the land of recovery.
right. Tim said that earlier. He said, I'm not one of you guys. That's pretending like you're a normie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't work for us very well
at all. And that's why people go out and think that they can use socially. And sadly, I don't want to sound, hard here, but sometimes they pass away.
Yeah. When I got clean, I'm watching the clock too. I was like borderline agoraphobic.
Okay.
My psychiatrist and my doctor got together, and they made a plan for me because I said, "Look, I don't want to use no more because that's going to help me to use, and I don't." And they gave me like 4 tranquilizers in case I freaked out someplace, and it was more of a security blanket. I don't share that a lot because some people still don't think that was right. So I understand I understand the harm reduction. I understand having something. The difference is that I didn't take it and I caused a lot of damage. I just a lot of anger in me, and I was afraid. I was afraid that I was going to go nuts every day, and I never took them. Just knowing that I could, if I had to, was enough for me. But I tell you, I did a lot of damage. I did not know how to talk to people. I was angry, but I was.
Keep going. You're fine.
No, I was under some type of psychiatric care, and I just chose not to use. So.
Hey, listen, we're wrapping it up here. Tim, first of all, I just want to thank you for being willing to come on the podcast and share your knowledge around powerlessness and unmanageability. Thank you, co-host Dr. Sellers, for being here. Yep. And thanks, Sean Denovan. Next week, we will be here for episode 48. It's going to be a great one. Hope to see you guys then. Like, comment, share, please. Somebody needs to hear this message.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
This has been a production from a podcast studio.